The tragic state of the American educational system. America is failing behind in the global race for innovation and intellectual dominance. While the U.S. once led the charge in STEM fields, the majority of advanced degrees in science, technology, engineering, and math are now earned by foreigners, many of whom return home and or remain in the U.S. as top talent. This shift is more than academic. It signals a future where the nation's industries, research, and tech leadership may be driven by and or reported to a non-American. What does this mean for the identity, power, and autonomy of the United States? Welcome to another episode. I'm your boy Quattro.
I'm Diesel.
Let's dive in. This topic we got today was real interesting to me. It came up, this past week, and I had a job that I did, and one thing that I noticed, well, the job that I did, I had to. Uh, there was a graduation where it was streamed on YouTube or whatever the case may be. So I had to come in as a director and technical director. I had to do both jobs actually, and so it was the graduation for Dominguez Hills, Cal State Dominguez Hills. And when I was, doing my job, doing my thing, there's uh, three ceremonies each day, whatever the case may be. You have undergraduate, then the advances as the day go along. So we get to the advanced degrees, and we're at degrees like bioengineering and all that stuff, and people getting their masters and doctorate and things like that. And so what I noticed was a drastic change in the demographic of the people receiving these advanced awards. And I noticed that I'm not bullshitting. Like 90% of the recipients were Indian descent, not Native American Indians from India. A lot, there was a few Asians, but primarily Indian and foreigners. Well, some of them were foreigners, people that were non-American. And so, that made me think. And so I started talking to one of my camera operators because I had said over the headset, I was like, "Is this the foreign exchange program?" I'm like, "Is it like, is this the foreign exchange segment?" And they like, "No." So one of my camera operators was like, "Yo, I just worked the graduation at USC and UCLA because it is graduation season." And he said, "Yo, it's the same thing. It was the same exact thing." So that kind of triggered me in my thinking, and it just made me sent me down this rabbit hole. Like, are we really ready for the change that's about to overtake America? Because at this point, it seems like it's out of our control because we're not choosing to go on. Obviously, we're not choosing to go into STEM into these areas and get
Hmm.
these advanced degrees. So now you have, all these people that have, advanced degrees in like bioengineering. So these are people that are in laboratories creating, how they could sell us, GMOs, and they could clone meat and all that and sell it to us. The people that are making these decisions and actually doing it are the people that hold these advanced degrees in like bioengineering and stuff like that. And they're not American. So therefore, they don't really have a heart for the American people, in my opinion. They come here and view America as this great opportunity, like this workspace. So there's no connection. Whereas though, if there was Americans in these positions, they would have more connection and be like, no, we don't want to feed the American people this trash. But when you have an entity or a foreigner coming in whose family and everything is back where they're from, they're here to make the money and they send the money back or they stay or whatever the case may be, why would they care about the things that they create for us to consume when it's all about making the money? So, that's why we're going to talk about this topic today because it just really just blew my mind. Like are we really ready for the America that we're creating or letting happen before our eyes? I mean, it's not that we're creating it, we're just letting it happen because they're coming in and they're taking advantage. We don't want to go to school. We don't want to get. We were happy with an undergraduate degree in hip hop studies and shit like that. And it's like, like, come on, bro, like brothers and sisters out there, come on, my fellow Americans. Like, we used to be at the top, we used to be the head innovators and stuff like that, and now we're just, we're letting them come in and just take it from underneath, snatch the rug right from underneath us.
We went from being innovators to perpetrators, as we'll discover in the next one of the next topics. This eagerness to look rich, but that's what it looks like from my quote unquote POV. We've just traded in this desire to be innovative in regards to creating value for the world to now just individuals who consume to perpetuate this look, this appearance of success. And so moving forward, we gotta make sure that our expectations rise back to the level of innovation when it comes to American education. That's where I think we begin specifically.
And it, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's where I said that's where we begin specifically.
And to your point, I mean, we keep coming back to this point that you started on our very first episode. It begins at home.
Hmm.
We have to. This is not the time to lay up off our children. This is not the time to make it easier as it relates to education and the pursuing of education. Now, granted, we do live in an era where there are plenty opportunities where you can make money from home, being having a podcast, having a product, and using social media as your means. But at the same time, there is a need for education when it comes to the degrees that matter.
Hmm.
you know, those frivolous degrees, psychology and sociology, all that stuff, mm, ain't too much money in that, whatever the case may be. But bioengineering and chemistry and stuff like that, and those, you need degrees. You need to be educated. You have to learn,
Hmm.
you know, to get it. And we're doing ourselves a injustice if we, just continue to let our kids choose the easy route. Because one thing I know, it's not necessarily easy. They think it's easy, but it it still requires dedication and hard work and commitment. And and if you're going to put dedication and hard work and commitment in, you might as well put it into something that's going to benefit and reap the most, benefit to you, whatever the case may be.
I agree, and the best investment is an investment in self. That's always going to be timeless wisdom that anyone can put into practice, no matter where they're at in the world and no matter what they're doing. And to your point, it begins at home. So we have to raise the expectation at home in regards to putting the kids on a path to aspire to be something within STEM, as opposed to just quote unquote an influencer, a
Right,
blog.
right,
Because again, that's only their desire due to that being what's in their environment.
right.
That's what they're seeing. So as
Absolutely,
parents, you just have to
absolutely.
be more active. So again, whether you're the parent, the guardian, the auntie, the uncle, do your part in making sure that you're exposing the youth to these different paths, these different career paths, in a sense, moving forward. So uh, again, career development begins, when the kid is born at the end of the day.
Yeah,
And I think that's another thing we have to start thinking about when we, are having kids or we're the uncles and aunts of, because at the end of the day, when we come back to the big picture, as uncles, aunts, parents, at the end of the day, it's still about family.
right.
And we want to make sure our family stays on, quote unquote, puts on. And the best way we can make that happen is by making sure that we are developing and cultivating, the next generation to be, positive, productive citizens.
Yeah.
And one of the best things we can do as those leaders in our family is make sure that they get their quote unquote education, but not just the formal education that's, quote unquote mandatory, that they got to go through the school,
Hmm.
specifically that education again, where they're learning the actual real world skills that they're going to need in order to make a life for
Hmm.
themselves once they become an adult.
And we're not talking about millennials and this Gen Zers, because at this point they're too far gone. They have experienced a taste of the good life, so to speak, the easy life.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? So we're talking about, Generation Alpha and Generation Beta. Is like, we have to, even though we don't know it, but we got to put these, numbers in front of them. You have to put, spelling words, and you have to put that stuff in front of them and let them know that it's fun to do that. Math is fun, science is fun. They'll deem whatever is fun, whatever you tell them is fun.
Hmm.
Whatever you give them. So we got to be mindful about when we're on our phone. Maybe being on our phone is an adult thing now,
Hmm.
that we don't do it in front of our children.
Yeah.
I remember back in the day when, our moms and stuff was smoking weed. You had to go upstairs in the room when adults came over. You wasn't, running around. But nowadays, they just let the kids. I remember I was dating one girl and I went over the house to chill with her, right? And we smoked a blunt or whatever. And I was trying to pass the girl the blunt, or she was passing me the blunt, whatever. One of us wasn't paying attention, and the kid was like, "Mom, look, he passing you the blunt." And I was like, "Yo, that's just crazy." Like, granted, nothing became of that relationship, but needless to say, like that did happen, and it just was like, we can't do things, because like I said, who them people, Gen Z, millennials, they too far gone. Like we done been out here in these streets long enough. Ain't nobody telling you nothing, and we ain't trying to work hard. You know what I'm saying? But these kids that are coming out, and I have a video. They're doing this in other places of the world. Like they are grooming the minds of the youth at a very, like at kindergarten.
Hmm.
Like these kids are. Matter of fact, let me show you what I'm talking about.
The videos of the Chinese kindergartners being absolutely elite at everything that they do, they occupy 90% of my brain power right now. In kindergarten, they just hand them a basketball and they say, "Time to work on your handles." Look at this. We have a generation full of iPad kids, and this is what they're doing. They're just elite at everything they do. They're more advanced than probably eighth graders now in America. These are all our look at this. Look what they're doing. These are all our future bosses. This isn't like, look, they even know how to cook. This isn't like, oh, we went down the local gymnastics and these are the top of the top. No, this is just like, oh, recess. Time to work on your cooking skills and how to be the absolute greatest. Look at this. They just give them basketballs. I need to know more, and I'm going to find out more. I know a lot about Japanese baseball culture. It's crazy, but I need to know more. This is unbelievable. Can you imagine trying this in American public school? I'm serious. Can you imagine it? One of the kids would start crying. The other be like, "Why is my basketball not inflated like the other basketball?" Then the other one would call their parents. We're doomed. We're doomed.
Hey, see, they doing this all over the world. Like it's not just in China. I'm sure there's other countries that are taking advantage. They probably doing the same thing in Russia and all these other you
We're
know
not doing it here in America.
we're not doing it here. That's we got
We
iPad kids.
Yeah, we got iPad kids who can't bust a grape, and anytime you ask them to do something, they want to go run and tell mommy, and in some cases, daddy. And
Hmm.
mommy and daddy is then gonna come out and ask you why you're asking their kid to do something positive and productive and constructive. And
Absolutely.
then we wonder, why we're falling behind,
Hmm.
specifically when it comes to education. And as we see, this is most likely what we just saw was most likely their formal education. So that's actually what's happening when they go to school.
Yeah, that's
So I
every
can only
day.
imagine what's
That's
happening
regular.
at home though as well, in addition to that.
Yes.
And so
You got to be in sync with the teachers and everything. Yes.
so to your point, showing that video in America, we got to step it up again. We got to raise the expectation. We got to know that our kindergartners are more than just Blues Clues.
And baby shark, 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 and some of the things,
They'll still have some fun,
yeah,
of
they do,
course.
and they do teach them some things because I'll be with my godson and I'll be watching Blippi and all those things. And there is some messages, cocoa melon and stuff like when they're very young.
Cocoa melon's good.
Yeah, you get the basics. Good morning. You identifying who's mom, dad, brother, sister. You get those the basic things, but we gotta take it to the next step and insert some math and words and science and
Now,
spelling.
don't get us wrong. There are definitely platforms out there that do help in that regards.
Oh yeah.
I've seen some personally, and the thing about those platforms and those softwares and those apps and those programs, though, is it requires the parent, to be conscious of their duty
Exactly.
in educating their child. So we can have all the tools that we want out there, but if the parent isn't making time, like I said, specifically making time, just to either sit down with their child and go through this material with them, or sit them down in front of the iPad so they can go through the material.
Hmm.
We just have to be more active, as the adult, whether the parent, the aunt, the uncle, the grandparent, the leader or adult of that household. At the end of the day, like, we just have to be more conscious when the kids with us, you know do something productive and positive and constructive, so that they are, again, being exposed to different things that are out there in the world, and not just limited to the things that they're going to most likely initially see in their immediate environment, which leads them to want to be things like influencers, bloggers,
Hmm.
streamers. That's one of the main things kids nowadays want to be. um, so, we just got to raise our expectations, and as, like, again, as adults, be more active.
Yeah, we gotta equip them so they can compete. Like
Hmm.
I told you, like the way the segment started, like these foreigners are coming over here in droves, and they like are focused in their head just to go ahead and be successful and to achieve. And it ain't about looking for an easy way, because where they come from is all they understand the struggle. They came from some of the worst parts of the world, so and that's why I don't really understand how we like got played out of our position, because we did come from a very tumultuous beginning, and instead of us using that as fuel to succeed and go the extra mile, we kind of just fell for the trick bag, and just became stagnated and mediocrity.
Well, going back to our Jewish wealth principles that we covered in previous episodes, we're not using this pain as fuel to drive us forward. We're using it as an excuse not to move forward.
Right.
And again, that's why I say, wealth begins at home, education begins at home, because it's going to require the parent, the guardian, the uncle, the auntie, the grandpa, the grandma, whoever, the big sis, big bro. It's
Hmm.
going to require that individual or the household to sit down with the youth and make time, even if it's 10 minutes, but making sure that you're using that 10 minutes to expose them to things that they wouldn't normally see in their day-to-day walks of life,
Hmm.
because that's what it's going to require. And then setting the expectation that you can be that, and then obviously from that point on, equipping them with the knowledge and skills they're going to need to be that, so that by the time they do turn 18 and they become an adult, they're at least, again, prepared, equipped.
Hmm.
They got the skills. Ideally, they're financially literate, and ideally, they speak another language.
Yeah, and as you can see, it's slowly but surely taking over. They're in politics already. You got Vivek Ramaswamy, you got Musk. He's not from here. You got AOC, she's a foreigner, and all this stuff. And you're gonna have leadership that won't give any. And this is why it's important to us, because we always talk about we're victim mentality and slavery, and it was bad for us in America, which it was. I'm not negating that fact, but if we allow these people who came from just as bad situations,
Or
and
worse.
they or worse,
Hmm.
and they came here and thrived, there would no longer be no compassion or empathy for you. Hear what I'm saying? There will be no empathy or compassion for you. There will be no handout for you, because they're coming from a third world country. Was like, well, eh, they won't even be able to fathom having any empathy for someone who ain't even come up as hard as they did. But they
Facts.
were able to come here and still thrive and succeed,
Right.
their mindset is not even going to be like, oh well, we got to consider, slavery was here. Slavery, like they was cutting our heads off. We was walking down the streets getting shot up with AKAs.
Yep.
We was in school, and the school next to us got blew up because they dropped the bomb on us. You know what I'm saying? So they're not going to have that compassion. So therefore, if we don't want to be uh, at their disposal, and living in a world where we're inevitably going to be strangers, we're going to be,
We actually got a video on the foreigners talking
yeah,
about their experience, or
exactly.
someone talking about the foreign experience coming to America. So let's go
Let's
ahead and
check
run
that
that.
out.
I've always asked myself this question, and I don't know if you have an answer for me.
Okay.
In USA, what I have realized is a lot of those people who succeed are mostly the foreigners than those who were born here and they have all the privileges, the citizenship and everything, financial assistance and everything.
Right.
Why do you think those who are foreigners who comes into the USA succeed more than those who were born here?
So what I will tell you is, remember, every foreigner that comes here, they come in hungry. They want to succeed, right? But the people that are here, they take some of this stuff for granted. That's why you see, when you go to most hospitals, who do you see? You see Indians, right, as doctors. When you go to most businesses, some of these businesses are owned by foreigners. The goal is they come in ready to invest, because in America, for you to succeed, you need to have what we call delayed gratification.
Wow, man. He's like, the way to keep up is learn new skills at the end of the day, period.
That's what the foreigners believe, quote unquote.
Yeah,
The
that's what they go by.
foreigners, and again, he said they were hungry. They're more hungrier than American, which is true. And
Hmm.
we do grow up as Americans under this veil of comfort, and we want everybody to be happy and in love, and so we don't prioritize this hunger for success, this grit anymore like we once did.
Right.
Think about it. We, quote unquote, as some circles would say, we put a man on the moon. We've come up with all these great inventions. We've done all these great things in our past, and granted, things are happening nowadays as well. Things are being invented, but most likely it's not American made anymore. It's not being done by an American. So
Mm-mm.
we are, quote unquote, importing a lot of foreign talent into America to keep the country running. 'Cause I saw that America, our GDP at this point was about 25 trillion.
Yeah.
So as if America was a company, our revenue would be 25 trillion.
Hmm.
And it said on our balance sheet, we would have assets of about 135 trillion between real estates, investments, and savings.
Hmm.
And so that's what we're working with as a country. And we got to realize that GDP, the production value of our labor force, in a sense, what are we, how are we taking advantage of that, as Americans, to make sure that we're not only, contributing, but also to making sure we're in the positions to where we are, in a sense, in control of the decisions that are being made about the things that we're producing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And and it's like, I always like to say things like, formal education is a scam and stuff like that. But the reality is, I understand that education is important, especially for certain levels of life. But
Yes.
most Americans aren't gonna
Or not
be
going
in
there.
in that those levels of life.
That's why we're
So
getting
if
scammed.
if you yeah if you going about being some top tier individual, then like, yeah, go out there and do your thing.
Right. Definitely go out there and do your thing, because we need you to learn these skills so we could stay relevant to
Hmm.
what's going on. And it's funny, he said something in there, something you just said. Not him, but you. You was like, everything is made by a foreign or another country. Out the other day, I went to look for a frying pan. And every one of those damn pans said "Made in China," "Made in China," "Made in China," "Made in China." Like, wow. So I understand what Big Guy doing and trying to get things back here. Like, it was like everything I picked up. The candles. I went down the candle aisle and I went down. Uh, I got some other things, the dish rack and whatever. I had to get some things that I need for the house, and everything that I bought was made in China. I was like, wow, this is real. And and on another point, me and you are both old enough to understand what he's saying about the value of a $20 bill, because I
Mhm.
know you can remember back in the day.
$20 bill is like felt
You
like
was
you was had
happy.
$100.
You was happy with a $20 bill. I'm trying to tell you, somebody gave you a 20. You, I,
You was in big business.
we went. You can get a 40. You can go half on the sack, and go watch a movie and get something to eat with like $20. Like, I know that ain't positive
$20
stuff,
have a good time.
but to have a good time, $20 would stretch. So, hey, we gotta keep up.
Gotta keep up.
And then, like you were saying, like we're not going into these important fields, and just to show y'all the importance of these fields, I'm gonna show you a glimpse of what bioengineering is. I know a lot of people are like, well, what exactly is bioengineering? There's a video that we have, and we're gonna go out on that one. Check it out.
This is real meat, no compromise, made in front of you.
So you grew this chicken in these tanks behind us
Yes.
without ever slaughtering a chicken?
You could ask me that a thousand times, and the answer is yes, yes, yes. We grew it right here. They're getting the oxygen.
His company, Upside Foods, just received clearance from the USDA to start selling their meat, made at this production center in Emeryville, California.
We'll be able to produce 50 to 75,000 pounds of meat every year right away.